We've all pretended to have friends at some point or another, but it's a great moment in every introvert's life when they realize they don't even have to pretend. They can just adopt friends from a show on Netflix. The early cast of Stranger Things had everyone your lonely heart could imagine. A dorky kid with a Stockholm love interest, a sheriff with a tortured past, and a teenage prom queen with a passion for lead and bear traps. What's not to like? It was easy to attach to some, if not all of the show's characters because each one had a problem they were struggling with. Each one reminded us of some awkward stage in our life, and each one made us interested in their success. So what the absolute butt nuggets went wrong? Today, I want to highlight the difference between a cast of characters that makes a story worth watching versus one that makes me pray the bad guy wins. Violently wins. Oddly enough, I get to do this using the same show for both examples, ensuring that you writers out there don't Duffer Brothers your own story into this nightmare-inducing kerfuffle of a poopy-flavored series. Hang on to your upside downs because this will be some of the best writing advice that you definitely don't want to miss. Let's start with something obvious and easy to implement. Complex and compelling characters have simple drives. Do you like calculus? I didn't think so. Don't overcomplicate what motivates your characters. Hopper wants to find Will Byers because he also lost a child. Not from an evil plant abducting him in a tool shed, but like, something just as bad. Nancy is struggling to learn what she actually wants in a relationship, and I mean honestly, the scene when she leaves Steve's house party is heavy. It hurts to watch. You're seeing this kid's entire worldview on love just shatter, and it struck such a chord that I actually felt included in the Me Too movement for once. And then there's Mike, who just wants a girlfriend, and come on, look at the kid! It's not every day that a recluse that doesn't talk back scuttles out of the woods and shows any interest in your ghost of Christmas past complexion. This is his first and only shot at love. These are just some of the character drives that made Stranger Things such an emotionally engaging show during its first season. Did I ever feel like I understood what was going on? Not really, but it almost didn't matter if I understood how the heroes would succeed, just so long as I understood that they were trying to succeed. You see, dear viewer, every story character should have a want, something that actually compels them to act. This can be a missing brother, a missing friend, a dead daughter, or a saucy love interest. I meant Steve and Nancy, you sick creeps. But without a want, then it doesn't make sense for any of your characters to do anything. And we'll get to what that looks like in just a second, but there's more to this character motivation than just giving your cast a thing to desire. You also need to merge and cross character wants to create friction. Now what does that mean? Everything in storytelling comes down to friction and irony. What a hero wants has to oppose what their soul needs. Failures lead to success and vice versa. And, in the case of characters, enemy characters are forced to work together to attain a shared want, and friend characters are driven apart by wanting different things. The first season of Stranger Things hit this out of the park with a spiky baseball bat. The popular girl and the creepy dork had to team up to find their friend and brother. The mother and son were at odds because they had different ideas on their quest for the missing bowl cut. The gang wanted to help Elle, but Elle didn't want anyone else to die. It's what made the show worth watching, more so than any other component of its storytelling. Now let's fast forward to the most recent season in everyone's mind, Season 5. Some characters retained a reason for what they did. Nancy was trying to save a sister that never mattered until this season. Eleven and the other one wanted to get back to popping people that did them dirty like back in Season 2. And... yeah, I guess that's it. Now look, yeah, everyone else was trying to Meshuggah Vecna, and if I really rack my brain, it makes sense. Everyone had lost someone because of Vecna at one point in time. But here's something that I talk about in the masterclass program I'm putting together. You need to remind your audience why a character takes action. And I'm not saying that you beat them over the head with this, but draw attention to it. Emphasize that Dustin still misses Eddie, that Max still feels guilt over Billy, and that Joyce is still grieving Bob or worried if she'll ever be a relevant actress after this show. You can go overboard. We get this with Hopper and Sarah, but that's because his character drive since Season 1 hasn't changed in 10 years. We all know this guy. He was at your 10-year reunion still bragging about his high score in Angry Birds. You gotta move on, man. To do this well in your own writing, you'll need to play a bit of a self-audit, checking in whenever your story seems to be happening for the sake of happening, but not having a natural reason to go on. In these moments, take a step back, find out when you quit feeling your story really pull you along for the ride, and see if all you need to do is remind your hero why they started their journey in the first place. There's a free PDF that'll help you with keeping your characters compelling down in the description. Now, this was very easy to do in the first season of Stranger Things, but it became incredibly difficult as the show went on because of... Full disclosure, I binged this show so I could talk about the finale, and I frequently find myself forgetting anyone's name who wasn't in Season 1. Now, why is this? Should I be concerned? Does anyone know the early signs of dementia? Anyone? Well, anyway, in any story series, we're going to have a core cast, and then we'll have characters that enter and exit the story. It helps keep things fresh because new characters mean new wants and problems. This is why I don't have many friends. I'm so lonely. But Stranger Things would get 2 new characters a season, sacrifice the more interesting one, and then incorporate the less interesting one into the central cast as some strange sort of vanilla diversity hire.
Because you're not black?
This is how we got from an already insane cast of 9 characters all the way up to this guy, her, that kid, the other kid. Let's call it 12 central characters, and then 3 villains. Now, as much as Stranger Things likes to extend its episodes into full-blown space operas, I only have so much love to give. I can't hand out 2 buckets of hex for each storyline, and the writers can't fit an adequate balance of plot and character motivation into an episode, even if it's 2 friggin' hours long. The best thing the Duffer brothers ever did was smother Barb under the cold, dark swimming pool of the Upside Down because, my God, she didn't serve any point past making Nancy feel guilty, and that's what you as a writer need to understand. Sometimes characters are just props. And I hate to say it, because I have a number of characters I really liked in my first book. I cried when I took them out of the story, but grow a sack of writing huevos and take out characters that no longer serve your story.
But Andrews, that sounds sad and dark. Stranger Things is a show about friendship and other stuff that makes me feel good.
Yes, it became that after Season 1. You know, when it started going downhill. But imagine, if you would, that Dustin didn't make it out of the Upside Down after discovering exotic matter in Season 5. Steve, Dustin's bestie and local idiot, has to step up with an idea. The gang has to realize that they didn't stand beside their friend when he needed them most. And the remaining cast of 11, not that 11, these 11, would actually need to figure something out on their own for once. This isn't free license for you to just start ketchup packeting every character in your script, but if nothing else, at least send them somewhere else that keeps your cast concise. Here's another scary alternative. If you have a cast of 12 characters and 3 villains, try combining them into one character. Mike and Dustin, or Dustin and Lucas, easily could have been one character. Don't think of this as having fewer story friends or fewer opportunities to cross streams. Create tension between characters. Consider it strengthening your story friends by giving them deeper, more compelling motivations. Because when we have fewer friends, we have more time to... I've used throwaway characters in my own writing, at least twice if I recall correctly. But an exercise I implement in my writing is simply called Who Would? Who is already in my cast that would say or do something that needs said or done? Now, as much as I hate myself, I don't do this just to make my life harder. I do it to make the characters better. We do this all the time in life. I might not have a back scratcher when I need it, but I have a remote that can do the same job, while also doubling as a projectile if anyone breaks into my house, and tripling as a remote that allows me to conserve my strength when changing channels. That doesn't make it less of a remote, it just makes it a remote and some other cool stuff. Let's give you an example that, as much as it pains me to say it, would have made sense for Stranger Things Season 2. What if, instead of Bob, Joyce and Hopper became more intimate earlier in the story? I love Samwise Gamgee, but we could have seen different aspects of Hopper earlier in the series. Joyce is attempting to protect her son. Hopper is attempting to protect his adopted daughter. They understand each other's pain, but Joyce doesn't know about Eleven, and Hopper feels conflicted about lying. There would be more opportunities, not to enrich the show's nostalgia, not to profiteer off my childhood by including a new character, but to make a story and its characters develop and stand on their own merits. This is insanely critical for a show or movie because books technically have unlimited time to ramble on about a cast. They shouldn't, but look at Game of Thrones, what do I know? But when you only have an hour, well, okay, Stranger Things didn't have an hour, but you and I might only have an hour. So we need to capitalize on that time. Yes, this means we have more depth per character, but it also means we spend less time jumping from what's going on in the Upside Down with Hopper, to what's going on in the Upside Down with Dustin, to what's going on in the Upside Down with Max, to what's going on in the Right Side Up with Max again, and on and on and on. It sounds great for this generation of ADHD-afflicted individuals, but all you're really doing is detracting from one potentially great story to make several bland, unremarkable side quests. Rather than something memorable like in Season 1, the only thing you'll remember is disappointment like in the rest of the show. And guys, if you like what I'm doing here, become one of the 5% that subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and take on some of the bigger projects I have planned to help you guys down the road.